Hello there. Today I'm going to be doing something different on this channel. Gotten a lot of flack for my opinions on CRPGs lately, so I'm thinking I'll just, lean into it as you do on the YouTubes and the socials, and do a tier list of CRPGs. I just found this on Tier Maker. It's got a few weird ones in there I don't know and stuff, but gotta go going with the flow here. All right, so I'm gonna get right into it, starting off from the back because we know, my friends, what's at the front. All right. And obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 isn't on here yet. Was made before its release, but we'll get into that at the very end of the video, where I think it sits on this tier list. Let's start off Wizardry. So I have not played the Wizardry series. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I saw Seth Sinch's video on it, which was a great video. Really want to play Wizardry series, but I haven't. But definitely a CRPG. All right, we start off with a goodie here, Wasteland 3. Wasteland 3 is like a really, really mixed bag for me. So on one hand, the game is absolutely fantastic. The opening of that game, that soundtrack, if you don't play CRPGs, just Google Wasteland 3 soundtrack. Best music, I think, of any CRPG other than Baldur's Gate 2. The problem is the game has some jink. Like, I remember once I was in a random encounter and I was like, I can't beat this. Then I checked on the forums. People were like, oh yeah, if that happens, you're probably just screwed. You need to reload. Like there was a lot of jank in the game, but overall it was still really fun. But then it also had bits that were so janky, sort of Unity indie game. It's really hard to tell. I'm going to put it in B tier. Which makes me sad because the storyline is cool and the music is amazing. Let's go. Wastelanders 1. I did not play that. Okay, well, we're starting off real strong here. This is S tier. Anybody that does not give Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines S tier is just off their rocker. This game is amazing. Troika Studios went from making Arcanum, which was a somewhat decent game, reasonably good game, to just making one of the greatest games. Had it not been rushed, if it were to get a remaster now, a full remaster and fleshing out of the content around the in-game, best CRPG of all time. Or at least top 3. Absolutely amazing game. If you haven't played it, go play it. There's a lot of fan packs out to get it kind of upgraded to a more modern standard. One of the greatest RPGs of all time, no doubt. All right, Tyranny. Tyranny is going in D tier. Let me explain why. I keep trying to play Tyranny. I've started the game like 4 or 5 times, and every time I get bored. The world just doesn't engage me. It's an unpopular take maybe with some people, but Tyranny just doesn't engage me. I don't like all the choices. It feels like you're constantly making all these moral choices that are supposed to amount to something interesting, but I don't care because no one in the actual world is all that interesting to me. So I don't care about right and wrong, power, or the power players, because I don't care about the world. The game never made me care, so all the choices it gave me just meant nothing. Tyranny goes in D tier. It's boring. Torment, Tides of Numeria. Did not play. Didn't play because, I could be wrong about this, correct me in the comments, I thought it was made by the same people that made Tyranny, so obviously I didn't play it. Could be wrong about that. If I am, I'll check it out. But I wasn't super sold. All right, this one is a complicated one because this person is right. Unlike the other Witcher games, which are not CRPGs, they're just action RPGs. The first Witcher game really does play much more like a CRPG. It even has a top-down view if you want to use that. This game is a complicated one. It's a really complicated one because there's a lot of jank, as there are with a lot of CRPGs. That seems to be a theme. It's just, I guess, the nature of making games with this much complexity in them. But The Witcher just had such a great way of doing storytelling. I think it goes in A tier. I think it's got to be an A tier because that game is so complicated in the way that you can explore the plot, move the story forward. Yeah, the combat stinks. The combat's really boring. But the actual, from the point of view of storytelling, there are not a lot of games that are as good as CRPGs that are as good as The Witcher for that OG storytelling. I forgot to say at the start of the video, I'm rating these games based on the quality they exhibited when they came out. So for the time, I'm not saying should you play. This is not a should you play tier list, though you should play Vampire Masquerade's Bloodlines. But this is a rating relative to how great they were when they came out. It's not a should you play. So Sunless Sky, Sunless Sea, I don't know why they're in this. Not a CRPG. They're going in that invisible tier list. Great games, but not CRPGs. Okay, so we get to Shadowrun. So Shadowrun, I've definitely played this one, and I think I've played that one. Shadowrun, they're not super long games, so I sort of just smash through them, but I'm going to give them all the same ranking. They're A tier. They're A tier. This is a dev, like, if you're a CRPG fan, the Shadowrun games are just good. They're just good, solid CRPGs. Good writing, nice combat system. That's it. There's not a huge amount to say about them. They're kind of forgettable, but you'll have a lot of fun playing them. There's nothing to really turn you off them. This is not a CRPG. This is an ARPG. It's a game called Sacred. A lot of you probably haven't heard of it, and you might be thinking, "Oh, it's not a CRPG," so it's going to go into the not a CRPG tier list right there. But actually, it's going to go into S tier because I'm breaking the rules. It was on the list, and Sacred is an amazing ARPG, and it does have some more CRPG aspects by expanding the world. It's just a really great inventive ARPG. If you're the sort of person that's been playing Diablo 4 and you're getting really, really bored, go get a copy of Sacred off Good Old Games and get some of the newer modifications that bring it up to HD res. Great game. Really fun ARPG. Lots of different classes that are all play different. An open world to explore that's a much more kind of diverse open world than Baldur's Gate 4. Planescape Torment. This is a hard one for me because I haven't played it a lot. I played it originally when I was a wee lad, and it was just janky at the time. Oh God, I keep saying it out here, but it really was. It was just an awkward game to play, especially when you were little, and it was kind of scary as well. But I've played the enhanced edition a bit, and I think I'm gonna have to put it top of A tier for now. But I do that with some reticence that I really need to play the game more. It probably would be much higher than A tier if I put more time into the game. Ooh, and now we get to Josh Boy's games. I don't know why I describe him like I know him. I just feel I played a lot of his games over the years. Pillars of Eternity, the first one. Pillars of Eternity is really difficult. Looking at what's in A tier, because maybe I'm being too kind, I think Pillars of Eternity has to go S tier. But then maybe that makes me question everything else, because I think Planescape Torment is probably, if I were to finally just sit down and beat the game, I'd probably enjoy it more. I guess Planescape Torment's going to have to go up to S. Planescape Torment's going to have to go up to S. Wastelander's going to have to go, and we're going to have to do this. Yeah. That's fair. We're going to have to do that, aren't we? Yeah. All right. And then Sacred's going to have to go down to A, because I'm just being too silly with that. But do play it. Deadfire, just, it's an interesting idea, but the overall game is quite short, and I just felt like, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is reflected in certain things that the game dev said during making the game. They themselves weren't happy with it because they felt like they were sort of being constrained by the CRPG genre a bit with this. And I think you can sort of feel an aspect of just unhappiness with the way this game was designed. It just feels, I just didn't enjoy it that much. I'll give it another shot sometime, but it's definitely not as good as Pillars of Eternity. For those of you that don't know, Pillars of Eternity was a sort of CRPG Kickstarter reboot meant to harken back to the days of Icewind Dale and Baldur's Gate. It was made by Obsidian Games' Josh Sawyer, and I think with Chris Avallone and Fergus Urquhart as well. And they kickstarted a bunch of money for the original Pillars of Eternity, turned into this absolutely monstrous game that probably had more content than it needed. And then they released Deadfire, and it was like, bloop, bloop. The hype was gone. No idea what this game is. Pretty sure it's not a CRPG or didn't play it. Oh, and this we get a controversial one. I have never had a more hyped moment in my life than when I first saw the trailer for Neverwinter Nights. And I had a lot of fun at the time playing on different servers. And this is a tricky one because, okay, let me explain for those of you that haven't played it. Neverwinter Nights was the first CRPG to have actual multiplayer functionality. There are still huge servers on that have huge year-long, decade-long narratives of roleplay that you can go and join today. It's awesome. The online play for role play, proper role play, real role play, not that erotic role play isn't role play, but you get my sense. This is a great game for people that really enjoy role play. The problem is the single player campaign is one of the worst gaming experiences of all time. So if we're just talking about the social aspect, this game is S tier. But if we're talking about the gameplay aspect is C tier. It's just a poor game. I don't know what you are. Masquerade. I did not play you. Legends of Grimrock. This is a good B tier game. So if you've never played Legends of Grimrock is basically an old school isometric, forward-facing, first-person CRPG in the style of old games like The Bard's Tale. Really good game. Nothing amazing, but super fun. The second sequel did not play. Lands of Lore, old game, have not played. Not that old. I'm an old, but I think that's like 1980, 83 or something. It's an old game. All right, moving on. S tier. Anybody who thought this wasn't going S tier is going even above. Ooh, that's a hard one. No. That stays higher, but this is S tier. Knights of the Old Republic, for those of you living under a rock that don't know, was just an astounding game when it came out. It blew my actual mind. You know when you're young and you get so into a computer game that your whole memory of that time of your life is absorbed into the game? That's me with Knights of the Old Republic, the first one. Oh, it's such a great game. Being able to be a Jedi, I won't spoil the storyline for those of you that haven't played it, but it's got an amazing storyline with lots of twists, and your choices can really influence the game. Like, you can make choices that are really horrific. You can kill Wookiees, man. Any game that gives me the moral freedom to kill Wookiees is a game I respect. And it had amazing combat. It was really when I feel BioWare, after they left Black Isle and Interplay, really emerged as their own entity. Great game. Knights of the Old Republic 2. I'm going to give an unpopular opinion here. So I know I love Chris Avalone's writing, and I see what he was trying to do when he took on this project, but I don't like it. I don't think the Star Wars universe works as dark, gritty fantasy. I don't like it. So for those of you that haven't played it, one of the big differences between this game and that game is that in the second game, there was a different writer, very famous writer, works for BioWare by the name of Chris Avalorn, who is one of the greatest writers in the history of computer gaming, no doubt. But he had this very inventive idea of trying to do the Star Wars universe as if it was a dark, gritty, almost film noir setting. And I just don't think it works. I will try playing through it again sometime in the future, but I've tried 3 times now, and every time I'm just sort of like, no, I want happy sounding music and epic Jedi battles, please, because that's what I want from Star Wars. So maybe unpopular opinion, but that's how I feel. It's sort of a C tier game, maybe B tier. Oh, the original Icewind Dale. This is a hard one because I want to put it up here with Pillars of Eternity, but this makes me think I actually need to drop Pillars of Eternity down there because I'd still rather play Icewind Dale than Pillars of Eternity because the 2.5 or 2.5e rule system I think is still better than the Pillars of Eternity combat system, and I think the art design for Icewind Dale is some of the most beautiful art ever. If you haven't played the original Icewind Dale, the enhanced edition is available on Steam now and Good Old Games. Check it out. If you are wondering, I've never heard of this RPG, and you're wondering why I'm putting it so high, largely because of the art. Look at the art. Look at the portrait art. Look at the area designs. Listen to some of the voice acting for the narration between the chapters. It is just one of those games that it's an auteur game. It's like a Wes Anderson film where everything just syncs up perfectly. It has a very old school D&D story where you're just a party lost in Icewind Dale and you journey around doing journey adventure thingies. But something about the overall aesthetic just molds this in a way that has so much atmosphere and is so engaging. So yeah, Icewind Dale is S tier. Icewind Dale 2 is also S tier. Sadly, you can't play that game really anymore because the source code was lost. RIP. So now we get to the Fallout games, including the ones that aren't technically CRPGs, but I'm going to rank them anyways. Let's keep going, boys. Let's keep going. All right. Fallout. Oh my God, I need my goddamn glasses. That's Fallout 1, right? Yeah. Okay. Fallout 1. A tier. Need to play Fallout 1 more. But I don't feel that it's. I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe some of my commenters are right, and I struggle with turn-based games. But I think Fallout 1 was a great game. Need to play it more though. I've only it's sort of a game I play and I mess around a bit and I do a few quests, but I never sank my teeth into. Partly at the time, I just didn't have it as a kid. I played it much later, but you can play Fallout for about 10 hours and still tell it's a great game. It's also not that long. I think the average time to beat it is only about 20 hours, so it's a shorter CRPG. Fallout 2 is going into S tier. Fallout 2 is just a great game. The weird thing about Fallout 2, though, is instead of playing it, I would rather just watch lore videos about it because the lore in Fallout 2 is just so good. Maybe that's actually... Yeah, maybe that actually puts Planescape Torment down to... Oh, it's hard. No, that's fine. That's where it should be. Yeah. Icewind Dale. There we go. Yeah. So, Fallout 2, great game. But the thing that amazes me most about Fallout 2, because the combat system isn't all that more interesting to me than Fallout 1, but god damn the lore. Every little story is so engaging. Really just such an awesome game. And one of the ways that I rate a good CRPG is that I could read it as if it were a novel. Another reason why The Witcher is high up. Another reason why Pillars of Eternity is high up. I just really wish that they had voice acted more of it. If Josh, if you're watching this, I'm available. Hit me up. Fallout New Vegas. It's technically not a CRPG, but it's on the tier list and I want to put it somewhere. So yeah, it's and it has enough of that CRPG heritage in it from the original Fallout games that I feel it should be on there. It's an S tier game. It's an S tier game. It's not as good as these two, but it's an S plus tier. I mean, you can play that game. I don't know. I've played played through it 4 times. I have friends that played through it 10 times. Amazing DLC. It's just a great game. Fallout 4, C tier. No, D tier. I don't like it. I feel like no, it's C. That's too mean. Yeah, it's C tier. It's an okay game. It's a little bit better than Wastelanders, but I just don't. I've heard this from so many people. Like you ask them, you say, "Oh, I don't like Fallout 4." And you ask them why, and they go, "Yeah." That's it. I mean, there's not a detailed logical explanation. Just a bit. Okay. Fallout 3, hard one. Lots I don't like about this game, and I think that comes from it being converted out of a standard CRPG into what Bethesda turned it into. At the same time, the lore, it carries on that really good lore of Fallout 2 in a way that Fallout 4 just doesn't quite connect with. I think it's just B tier. It's B tier. It's kind of higher up on B tier. Yeah, I don't really enjoy the gameplay that much. I mean, but that also could apply to New Vegas. But the world and the lore are just excellent. Again, the quest design though and the narrative doesn't work as well as it does for New Vegas. New Vegas is really set apart by the world, the lore, and the overall gameplay setup. Dragon Age Origins. It almost makes it into S plus tier, but it just comes in here behind Icewind Dale. For those of you that haven't played it, Dragon Age Origins was BioWare's first major game, I think. Are we right about this? It was their first major attempt at reviving the CRPG genre after the collapse of Interplay Black Isle. And I think they had already, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they had already made the first Mass Effect game by this point. But they were really trying to revive the CRPG genre, and I think they did a good job of merging some of the things they learned game design-wise from Mass Effect with a more standard CRPG that still had CRPG-style tactics. That said, the game is incredibly buggy. I had 2 whole playthroughs break at a single point in the game 2 times in a row, and it happened to other friends as well. So I'm sure it's much better now if you get like fan patches and things. I'm sure, fans of CRPGs are amazing at reviving them. So we'll do that. And now we get to the controversial stuff. If you stuck around this long. So Original Divinity, it's going in high B tier. Really enjoyed it when it came out. Need to play it more. It's one of the games that really, really sucks up your time. It's not super, super long, but figuring things out in it is quite complicated. It's got very intriguing quest design. This is a fun game. It didn't again, with all the everything made by Larry and Sudas, I don't find the plot or characters at all interesting, which is why it's low. But it was really intriguing when it came out. It was very different. Divinity 2 Original Sin C tier. This is probably my most unpopular take here. I just don't like the game. The characters are like in Divinity, the first one, I felt like you weren't supposed to care about the characters. You're just supposed to be amused by this interesting stuff that's going on. Whereas with, like problem solving and the turn-based combat and all that, whereas Divinity 2 Original Sin, I think I felt like they were trying to tell a story, and it was a story that I didn't care about at all. Anyone in it or the world or anything. So it loses points for that. Divine Divinity, I didn't play. Actually, should try that out sometime. Disco Elysium. So, I'm going to do a video on this. Angry ex-philosopher plays Disco Elysium and rates it, but at this time I haven't played it. I've only played about 2 hours. Diablo is not a CRPG, but it's going to go in D tier anyways because I hate it and I just want to put it somewhere. Actually, I would make a new tier list. Let's make a new tier list. Add row below. Blizzard. There we go. Let's make that blue for Blizzard so that we know it's Blizzard. All right. And now we get to the good stuff. Baldur's Gate 2. S tier. S tier. The only RPG better than Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines. Do we need to explain why that's good? You know what? If you want me to explain why Baldur's Gate 2 is S tier, I'll make a whole video on it. I'd make a whole 2-hour video on why Baldur's Gate 2 is S tier. It's got the best voice acting. It's got the best art design. It has the best quest design. It has a much better implementation of the 2.5e combat system than its predecessor, bringing us on to its predecessor. This is a hard one because I think it's got to be S tier, but it's the lowest on the S tier because it had some flaws. They were very much sticking to a slower pacing, which is good, but who wants to be level 1 for 8 hours of gameplay? Great game, but just surpassed by its predecessor. And that gets us on to probably one of the trickiest games on this list, Arcanum. So for those of you that don't know, Arcanum is made by the same guys that made Vampire Masquerade's Bloodlines. It was made by Troika Studios. And the weird thing about this game, so if you haven't played it, it's a setup between Might and Magic. No, that's a different game. Between mechanics and magic, and the world is sort of caught up in a battle between industry and magic, and you're on a quest to figure out some things about stuff you don't know, as the standard sort of CRPG beginning. It is a good game. It was a great game when it came out, so it's A tier. I find it really difficult to play now because even with modern modifications to get it into HD, there's just some difficulties navigating the game and the world, and it feels very dated. But when it came out, it was fantastic. It's A tier. And I think, that brings us to the end of this tier list. Oh yeah, I was gonna say where would I put Baldur's Gate 3? So I'm near to the end of Baldur's Gate 3. I'm in the third act. I would put the early access version of Baldur's Gate 3 in C tier, C to D tier, say D tier, for the very early access, and then C tier later on. For acts 2 and 3, I would put them in B tier. I think they're very similar to in like narrative quality to a game like Shadowrun or Divinity 3. Divinity 3 or the original Divinity game. Like I think it's the combat mechanics of a game like Divinity with the sort of storytelling level that I would expect from a game like Shadowrun. Or that's about where I put it, B tier. So if you watch this far, like and subscribe, and I'll see you around, hopefully with some less what's the word? I don't know, more content rich content. Peace.